Okay, so today I will talk about is your contribution process with automation. So it's basically everything we went through at Algolia on some of our projects, a lot of tips. So first, what this talk is not about. It's not about making Travis fast or Jenkins fast, Webpack fast, your test suite fast, anything very fast that is very common in automation talk. It will not be about that. Well, okay. But we still have a lot of things to share. What this talk is about, it's about finding ways to ease the contribution process on your project and automating human behaviors and getting the most out of all your contributors on your projects. First, a bit of context for you to understand what we are going to talk about. This talk will be using a project as an example, a real project, which is Instant Search. It's a set of UI libraries to build search on top of Algolia. We released many flavors of it, and we are going to release more of them in the future. So basically, it looks like that. This is the React example. On the left, you have the React code that will instantiate a search UI and some configures, headers, filters, search box, some components. And on the right, you have the result of it. So more specifically, we are going to go through instantsearch.js, which is the JavaScript flavor of it. It's an open source project. It's done on GitHub. We had many commits, 50 contributors, 1,000 issues and pull requests, and more than 1,500 of live websites using it. So basically, those numbers are for you to understand that we have a lot of feedback from people since for this project. And we are going to go through what it's like to contribute to this project today and how automation plays a role in it. So those are the part of our contribution process nowadays, from discovering the project to releasing it. All of our contributors will have an impact somewhere. Some of them will go through the whole life cycle, and some others will only update the documentation, for example. And we want to optimize every entries and every contributor type of process. So first, the first thing you do when you go through InstaSearch.js is maybe discovering the project. So we need a good README because we need to answer what is this project, what it's doing, where is the documentation, the live documentation, not just the README, and how do I contribute? So it's very easy, but we still put it here because we encountered a lot of projects, open source projects, that did not have a good README in the end, just saying what it is. So this is the example README of an InstaSearch project. It just says, here is the React flavor, here is the website. How do you install it? Very briefly. Afterwards, you go to the documentation and how to contribute to it. So that's the first part. And the second part of the process will most of the time be about giving feedback, which means opening an issue most of the time because something is not working or maybe some feature is not yet there. And we discovered that if you have nothing to do but a white text area, people will have different ways of expressing the feedback. Some of them will be very descriptive. Some of them will just put a single sentence saying it's not working. Here's a screenshot of my code in a PDF. So to solve that, we used GitHub issue templates. A lot of other issue trackers have those kind of things. So it looks like that when you open an issue, you have a big text that you need to read. You can also just remove everything, but then you will have harder, different responses. So it starts like that. You have a big text area, and the goal of this big text is just to say to the user, okay, there is a way to give us feedback. You have to answer specific questions like, is it a bug, a feature? What is the version you are currently using? So things like that. And afterwards, what we discovered is that we still needed, since it's a UI library, it's a JavaScript UI library, it's visual. So people that want to provide feedback on a bug, for example, it's better if they have a way to easily put a live website showing like it's not working, rather than just a screenshot of the code. So we have a live example, editable live example for the users to use them, create their test case, and show us that something is not good. So the overall goal is just to reduce back and forth communications. So it's about, this is where we automate behaviors a bit. with this issue template. Okay, so after opening an issue, most of the time, some people will try to actually solve the issue. So this is where we want them to maybe clone our project and start hacking on it. Again, we discovered that the least amount of steps you have to do to start the project, the better. So our project is like a live website documentation with live examples. And there is a single command to run it, which is npm start. This command should have a fast live reload. If you have to wait for 5 or 10 seconds for the website to update, then again, some people will feel some frustration and frictions, and they won't go that far. So for this, we use simple npm script. It's a JavaScript package manager able to run some shell scripts. Metalsmith to generate the website, and some browser sync to live update, fast live reload. Okay. So the next thing a contributor will do after having a good prototype, a good proof of concept of his new fix or feature, we want them to actually test the code. In a lot of situations and libraries, actually having to write unit or functional tests, it can be a struggle because it can be slow and repetitive. Our way to solve that today is to provide modern tooling, smart testing strategies, and good local and continuous integration tooling. So we use Jest, which is a JavaScript test runner, and Jest has a nice feature that basically writes part of the test for you, the expectation part. You can find more information on snapshot testing. That's how it's called. Then we use, for functional tests, we use WebDriver IO, good API to run end-to-end tests, ensuring that your app is working in a real browser. And we ensure that the local developer can run this very easily. And afterwards, we also ensure that when it's running inside Travis, we are able to scale our functional testing so that we can take one test and run it in 10 browsers at the same time very easily. So all of this, in the end, ensures that our testing stack is good for people, for contributors, and they don't complain about it, which is the main struggle. When the code is mostly done, some things we will struggle with again is about formatting of the code. So we can have a lot of discussions around style in a 50 contributors project, how to write variables, how to put semicolons, how to have tabs or spaces. So what we choose is to have a tool that automates all of this, which is Prettier. And basically, when you are writing your commit on Git, all the stage file will be reformatted using this tool. And another way for us to put some automation inside the contributor workflow is to lint the code. Again, we want to avoid back and forth for the developer. If we can tell him, careful, your code will not work in a real situation, linting can help us doing that. So we use ESLint so that the developer has some good information before trying inside his browser his code. Okay. The next part is about documentation. Once most of the code is done, we want the developer to actually document it. In a UI library example, we have a lot of different APIs, and because we have a lot of components, a search box, a list, etc., and all those components, they have different APIs, and we want the API documentation to always be up to date. So what we discovered is that the closest to the code, the better. So we use JavaScript doc, which is a notation to document our components, and then we extract automatically some markdown from this documentation. We put it inside the website. So to do that, we have some custom code, just simple JavaScript code to actually do this. We consider documentation as the first citizen. So the documentation website is not a different project. It's the same. It's inside the same project than the code. And the only way to actually develop on the library is to launch the documentation website, so that we ensure that the developer that is contributing to the library always has an eye on the documentation. And some other tricks we used is that on every community website that we have, for example, for Existence Church, on the top right of every page, we have an edit this page link. So that, for example, someone that is just a random contributor, not doing any code, but just trying to fix a typo in the code or in the text, then he can just edit it. It opens GitHub on the right file. He can change it, submit a pull request, and it's done. So again, this is to reduce back and forth. If someone wants to just update the documentation, we don't want them to tell them, okay, you have to clone the project, install Node, install NPM, run the whole thing, and then update it. This is not good. So they do it online. And then comes the time to actually open a pull request. So what we have done is, of course, we use Travis so that we run everything that we have seen, linting, testing inside Travis. But again, for our UI library, what we discovered is that sometimes people will say, okay, I fix the search box. I fix the list of items, the component list. But the only way to actually ensure it is to actually visualize the change. And to do that, we use deploy previews. So every pull request is automatically deployed with a tool that is named Netlify. You can do it with a lot of tooling. Netlify is just a very easy way to do it. And it goes like that. So this is a comment on a GitHub pull request. There is a bot that will say, okay, the deploy preview is ready, and it will be updated the more commits you add. It has always the same URL, which is linked to the pull request number. And when you click on it, you actually see the whole website, like it is in production. And you can ensure that everything is really working. So for us, it provides a safe and confident way of checking before merging. Since we had that, most of the other projects inside Algolia, we try to move it to this tool so that even our own documentation on algolia.com, it is deployed for every change so that we can check it. Releasing can be a struggle in a life cycle of a project because most of the time it will be the responsibility of only one person because it's complex to do. So we try to simplify this by having a good process about releasing, a good and confident and safe process so that anyone can deploy and with a single command, which is run release, npm run release. Before that, in some projects, we had like 10 steps inside the Google document to follow, and people were not feeling confident doing it. We use just regular shell scripting, same there, so that we can decide what is the next version with a specific convention. Then we use conventional changelog. It's basically guidelines on how to write your commits that is then used to generate a changelog because big part of releasing is about saying, okay, what did change exactly? Did we break something? So we have good changelogs. And then we use just Yarn because when you are releasing, if you release on Monday and on Sunday and the dependencies of your project did not change, you want to ensure that they really did not change. And Yarn is solving that very well. And it's interactive, the command line. You can see it here. This is the command line to actually release a React search. Here we are releasing maybe a normal version. So we are saying to the contributor, we will generate a changelog for you. You must choose a new version, and it's Semver based. On the next screen, you will see the actual changelog of what is coming. You can then exit the screen and actually release by saying a new version, and then it will be pushed to every package registry that we need. After releasing, the last part is about distributing our own code and making it available to most of the people. So a UI library like Algolia, like Instant Search, is available inside NPM, which is a JavaScript package manager, for people using it. But we also have a lot of people that are using regular script tags on web pages. So we push to NPM, which is then pushed to JS Deliver, which is a CDN, automatically. There are a lot of other solutions to do that, but works well for us. So that was the last part. And now to the conclusion of this talk. What we discovered and what you can take away. Automation for us is not just about shell script and Travis or Jenkins. Many parts of our own contribution process can be optimized and should be optimized if it makes sense and provide a better workflow. Our ultimate goal is to ensure that all of our contributors, from beginners to advanced and casual contributors to the documentation to regular contributor, have a good workflow and a safe one. And we discovered that it's never too late to automate, but the sooner we do it, the better. And that's it. Yeah, okay. So questions if you have one. No. So it was clear.